How you doing, wrestling fans? John Arezzi back for another edition of Pro Wrestling Spotlight Live, streaming on Facebook and on YouTube. This is a return. We were not on the air last week. I was traveling up here to New York, so I'm back in the New York clubhouse up in New York, and I will be here possibly through the end of the year. We'll see what happens, but it's good to be back with everybody for another week of Pro Wrestling Spotlight Live. We have a really interesting show today. Some good news, some bad news. We're going to pay tribute today to Sylvano Sousa. Dave Silva was his real name. He passed away from complications of COVID-19 on Wednesday. And it was a sad thing for me because we had been in communication to bring him on the show so we could talk about that one match that we had together back in 1978. But Savannah had committed to do the show, and then he had some back surgery done, and then I reached out to him again about a week and a half ago, and no response. So I had found out from a couple of friends that he took ill about 10 days ago. And he had a lot of underlying conditions, but he passed away, and it's a sad thing. So today we're going to get on the phone at about 6:15 with a gentleman who actually spoke to Savannah almost every day for the last 12 years. He was a very close friend of his from the New England area. Bob Verhey is his name. And we'll do we'll get a couple questions answered about Savannah. Then we're going to play a induction ceremony. Harold Finkel inducted him into the New England Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame back in 2013. So we'll see that clip. And after that, I found something that's really, really cool from the Southeast Asia tour, which I think everybody's really going to enjoy. And it is a match between Jake the Snake Roberts and Diamond Dallas Page with Paulie Dangerously in Page's corner as the manager. So we'll play that, and we will, of course, get your comments, your questions here at the show, because I want to mention there's a bunch of our fans joining us. But back with me after a long absence, let me get Sylvana and me off the screen. That would be good. So I will do that. And let's try it now. There it is. Dominic is back. Dominic, how the heck are you?
It's good to be back.
It is good to be back here in the clubhouse with you and back on the show. You've been working. You ended your summer job at the beach. That was a kind of cool job, I think, right?
It was a cool job, and now I'm working at a gym. I'm working at the local gym right here in West Babylon.
Well, make sure you mask up and you have your disinfectant and your hand sanitizers, and
yes,
don't get too close to anybody.
I definitely won't. Mask is up. Washing my hands
Good.
Every half an hour. Always have a little hand sanitizer with me.
So as you're continuing your master's degree program at
Cortland, SUNY Cortland.
Yes, SUNY. You'll be working at this gym until we go back into the orange zone, which seems to be coming quickly, and then they'll shut it down.
Well, hopefully that's not the case.
I hope it's not the case, but who knows? But also we have Alex Robertson with the news, so we're going to bring Alex on in just a minute here, and awesome. It's good to see you.
It's good to be back.
All the fans here are, they're calling in. It's good to have everybody back with us. And Dominic, I'll put you in the waiting room, and we'll talk to you in a bit.
Sounds good.
Alex Robertson from Canada. There she is.
Hi, John. How are you?
Good. I was finding out a little bit more about you before the show started. Mm-hmm. Started watching wrestling, and it was several years ago, and it was kind of like the Bellas were the first thing that kind of drew you into wrestling. Your mom.
That's right. And Mom was always a longtime wrestling fan. She used to drag my dad to events here at the Bell Center in Montreal. And she never actually told me that she was a longtime wrestling fan until I started becoming one myself. And I mean, I've always, I watch wrestling and I love it. But like I said, I think, me seeing the Bellas and me watching women's wrestling, that's what got it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you're still around and you're becoming one of the top new journalists in the business. You've been covering it for a while. You do a lot of different things. And And of course, we're so excited to have you here each and every week, giving us the news. You're from slamwrestling.net. So we have a big show tomorrow night taking place. It's Survivor Series in the Thunderdome.
That's right. That's right. Yes, there's going to be 7 matches on the card as it stands. And normally, this Survivor Series, it's a brand versus brand. So it's going to be Raw versus SmackDown in a lot of the matches. And normally when these things kind of go down, I like to see the bigger teams, like the single competitors, get together and form a team per brand. And they go against each other because I think it really shows the, who is the best type thing. So for instance, for the men, we have Team Raw, which is AJ Styles, Keith Lee, Sheamus, Braun Strowman, and Matt Riddle, versus Team SmackDown, which is comprised of Kevin Owens, Jey Uso, King Corbin, Seth Rollins, and Otis. So there's some pretty big names on both of those teams. So I'm interested to see what happens there. I mean, to me, it could go either way.
Yeah. That's definitely it's really, there's no favorite in that one. I mean, it can go either way.
Yeah. And then, of course, the women have their own match in the same kind of format. So we have Team Raw, which we have the women's tag team champions. So we have Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler with Lana, Lacey Evans, and Peyton Royce. Decently strong team. I mean, I'm kind of surprised to see Lana there. I'm kind of also surprised to see Nia Jax there for the sole reason that, behind the scenes, we keep hearing that she's injuring people. I mean, it's not really a secret anymore. And to me, I'm kind of just wondering, okay, well, if this person is injuring people without, intent or anything like that, I mean, do you really want to put her in a match with other women on both brands and putting women on both brands at risk here? I don't know.
Yeah, it's been kind of a problem with her since she started in a way. I mean, she, what about the shot that she gave Becky?
Oh yeah, when she got the broken nose.
That was crazy. And this thing with Lana is really kind of disturbing to me. Because they're putting it through the announcer's table, like 9 times now, 10 times now, every show. And the scuttlebutt is that doing that because her husband is with AEW. Now, I don't know. Is that true? Is that a rumor? Is that kind of a shoot? Is it a work?
I mean, if I had to guess, it's probably a work.
No.
From what I've been seeing on Twitter, Miro, also known as Rusev in the WWE, he's been tweeting up a storm. You should go watch my wife, Lana. She's amazing. She's great. So I don't know if he's trying to put her over in a sense. I think that's what he's doing because I think a lot of people, just like you and I, are surprised that she's in a match like this. But I mean, I really hope that they're not putting her through 9 and 10 rounds of tables because her husband left and chose to go and pursue other things. I don't think that's right. But again, never say never, right?
Hey, let me tell you something. I mean, there's some crazy things that go on there. I'm not saying it's a shoot or not. I don't know. But, on my Pro Wrestling Spotlight Then and Now podcast, we've been going over when Tony Atlas went back into the WWF back in 1990. They started calling him Saba Simba. There are different reasons. And when Sergeant Slaughter came back years ago, I'm going back 30 years. Like I'm in a freaking time warp. But I mean, Sergeant Slaughter comes back and he had this big controversy. Then they make him an Iraqi sympathizer. So I mean, there's always seemed a little bit of chicanery when it happens when people piss them off for whatever reason. Anyway, so that's just my own devious mind thinking of conspiracy theories. I've been drinking too much of the Kool-Aid, maybe.
Well, I mean, you want to talk about talent, if you will, pissing off the big company. Let's talk about Selena Vega for a second.
Another thing.
Yes. And I mean, you and I have talked about this before. We keep saying somebody's going to do it. Somebody's going to come out and say, I'm not getting rid of my Twitch account. I'm not getting rid of my third-party accounts because they generate me income. And look what happened to her. I mean, like, it's insane. It's insane because she won't give up a Twitch account. And they let her go.
Name too. It wasn't even under her stage name, her performance name. It's under her real name.
That's right. So, and I mean, she went on her Twitch account and said, like, listen, I know what the protocol is now with the WWE. We're not allowed to have third-party accounts, but I'm not giving this one up, you know? Yeah. And subsequently what happened. And I applaud her for standing up for that because I think it's, kind of crazy that Vince McMahon is making them give up third-party accounts when it's generating them more income. And in her case, we don't know if it, like her Twitch account and all these other accounts she had, could have been generating her more income than her actual WWE job. We don't know, right?
Yeah, there's no live events anymore. I mean, they're all so the income has got, unless they're on these downside guarantees, and how much do they get for that? Yeah. But why not make some money? Because you're certainly not making probably even the merch money that you used to, because people buy merch at the live events for the most part. I mean, it's not all online, and for them to kind of like be in a situation where you're not making the money you used to, and there's no live shows, there's no large gates. It's kind of insane, and then you take that away, but I think there's going to be some repercussions from this.
Yes.
I think 2021 is going to be a year where things are going to possibly change. I know there's a lot of talk from the gentleman who was a presidential candidate, Andrew Yang.
Yes.
Just waiting for the time when the administration switches over, if it ever does. Who knows where we're going to be in a couple of months over here. And then he's going to kind of go after them and see if there's a change. And there's also scuttlebutt now that the SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, are trying to step in and form a union for the wrestlers based on the SAG, which is traditionally for actors and actresses.
I mean, why not? Why not have that? I don't understand why they wouldn't be allowed to have something like that. And I think in the WWE's case, I think it's necessary at this point that they do have a union.
Yeah, I think it's important, especially in this day and age, because it's been going on forever. And a lot of people can argue independent contractors. This is the way the wrestling business has always been. Well, the wrestling business has changed over the last several decades. It's not the wrestling business from years ago where people were on the road. They were going to different territories. You'd spend 3 months in this territory. You'd spend another 3 months in another territory. And unionization wasn't something that was ever considered. It wasn't until Hulk Hogan and the WrestleMania era started that there was scuttlebutt about the wrestlers forming a union, and then Jesse Ventura tried to do that, and then Hulk Hogan stooged him out to Vince, and there was a big issue there. So anyway, we'll see what happens. It's not the same business. It's an entertainment business now. It's more of an entertainment than a sports industry, and so why not get unionization with the SAG? But I think there's going to be some news about this in 2021, and I'm looking forward to see where it goes.
Definitely. And I know some people just said in the comments, like, it's sad that you see somebody like Selena Vega, who actually is very talented. I mean, we saw her not that long ago having one-on-one matches with Asuka. I mean, she is a talented young woman, and she could have done some serious damage in that women's division. And it's just sad to see her go. And now I know a lot of people are thinking, where is she going to go? And a lot of people think, is she going to go to AEW? But
there's a question by Brian Phillip here. Brian, I'm not just targeting the WWE.
No, it's all of them.
It's Impact, it's Ring of Honor, it's all of them. If you're going to have a full-time employee who does nothing but work for you and doesn't go anywhere else and can't work for anyone else, although they're an independent contractor, but you can't do anything else, then you're not an independent contractor.
Yes.
Then you're an employee, and then you need your benefits, your pension, your medical. That's all it is. It's not Yeah, there's always been a movement, but I'm saying Tom Burke, a dear friend of mine. How you doing, Tom? By the way, it's not the 50s and 60s anymore. I was watching a tape earlier today from Washington D.C. from 1966 in one of them smoky arenas with Ray Morgan as the announcer. It's not that way. It's Thunderdome. It's acting. It's glitz. It's glamour.
Yeah.
You have billionaires owning these companies, and you got performers who are now independent contractors to this day. And I will get on my soapbox, and I have been talking about this for 30 freaking years. I will always talk about protecting. If someone's an independent contractor and you cannot work for somebody else, you got to work for that organization, then you're an employee. That's my personal opinion as whoever the fuck I am. Excuse the language. I'm sorry, I'm getting hot over this. Because when this happens, and you see it all the time, and it's that's just my opinion, and that's that. And that's it. I could say whatever the hell I want, right, Alex?
It's your show, John. You do as you may.
Right. At least for a week.
Well, you know what? If I'm gonna say anything to end this on a high note, I just want to mention that we did hear this week that Renee Young and John Moxley will be expecting their first child, which I think is amazing. And I think that child is going to have the coolest parents ever. And I think it's really sweet. So I think, that's something that we need to highlight. And also, I want to point out that Alexa Bliss also got engaged last week to her now fiance, Ryan Cabrera, who is the lead singer for Bowling for Soup. So very happy for the both of them.
Yes. Congratulations.
Yeah.
I think I love her character right now, by the way.
Her and The Fiend, perfect. I don't know why they didn't do this sooner.
I just made the list.
You made the list.
I made Vince McMahon's list in the 90s, so I'm still on the list,
Yeah.
Whatever. So anyway, we got a big show tomorrow. We got the tribute to The Undertaker, which is going to be really cool. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes. And I mean, it was very cool how the talent nowadays, I saw like all of, Alexa Bliss, AJ Styles, they all were posting on their social media in a very Undertaker-like character.
By AJ Styles.
Sorry, that was my Alexa.
That's cool.
Was it?
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes when I talk on,
like whenever she wants.
Whenever she wants, yeah. She can't find AJ Styles, but
Alexa.
It's gonna make it go off again. But yeah,
Alex Robertson.
Luckily, it's not picking you up.
Yeah.
But yes, two very exciting things tomorrow. We got Survivor Series and we got the Undertaker special. So lots to look forward to tomorrow.
Yes. Well, it's going to be good. I'm going to watch it. Dominic, you're going to watch it. We're going to be here in the clubhouse. We'll get a little pizza or chicken tonight. No more chicken tonight. We had chicken tonight yesterday. It was a mess. You don't know the chicken tonight story, Alex.
I don't know.
Podcast listeners probably do. But anyway, I mean, we're talking about some big things for 2021, and I'm happy that you're here with us. And
I'm with you for the long haul, Joel.
Yeah, did I mess it up, or did I say? Did you give your final story?
What? No, I mean that's really what I wanted to wrap it up with. I don't think it was actually you. I think it was Alexa that kind of distracted us. So
yeah, she ruined our finish. Well, it's certainly good to see you again, and you guys already had Thanksgiving, so I can't even wish you happy Thanksgiving, right?
But I can wish you a happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, please do.
Yes. Stay safe, both of you.
Thank
both
you
you and Dominic and the family. Stay safe.
Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yes, of course. Talk to you then.
All righty. Have a good night.
You too.
Alex Robertson, slamwrestling.net up in Canada. And yeah, I'm a little fired up. Dominic, are you fired up?
Yeah, it's I've never seen you get that fired up over the issue of unionization.
No, I mean, because I've been talking about it, and I talked about it for 30 years. I left the business for so many years, but it's still the same. And the thing is, it's like, you either agree or disagree, but I'm just that's just my opinion. That's my viewpoint. If you're going to be not allowed to do other things but work for a specific company, and you're an independent contractor, it just doesn't work that way. It shouldn't anyway.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
A lot of people are talking about the Undertaker
Yes.
celebration tomorrow, 30 years since his debut.
I can't wait.
it'll be, I guess, a celebration of his career because he's officially retired from in-ring work.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
A lot of people were talking about the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame controversy with Kenny Omega.
Yeah, I mean, I've been catching up on that over the last 24 hours. I didn't, I saw a bunch of stuff on Twitter.
Did you have a vote?
I did have a vote.
Interesting.
This was the first year. I had been gone for 20-something years. But Dave Meltzer sent me a ballot, and none of the picks that I had as a historian were chosen. But I was old school on it. And as far as Omega and his selection, I'm not going to editorialize on it because I got the ballot for the first time. I had never voted for the Observer Hall of Fame before till this year. And I am going to, kind of sink my teeth into this, what's going on. And, but I'm not going to get in the middle of it. I'm just not, because I love Brian. I love Mr. Cornette and Dave. No matter what anybody says about Dave Meltzer, I respect Dave and what he's done for the business over the last years, many years. And so, there's no winning by editorializing because I'm not as educated as I should be when it comes to that too. So, but everyone has their voice and their opinion. It's really lightened everything up too. It's been crazy. Have you followed it much?
I've followed it. There's been a lot of debate, and like the Baseball Hall of Fame, which they just announced a ballot for.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interesting conversations going on. So, including the 605, I've listened to the first part of it. I have to listen to.
Oh, did you? I haven't heard it yet. I haven't.
Good.
We taped our podcast today, and I've been quite busy with our auctions in the last 24 hours, and but I will check all that out. But right now, I mean, we're going to talk about Sylvano Sousa, and I'm going to try to get Bob on the phone. So excuse me, because Bob didn't have a good computer set up with Wi-Fi, but I do want to get him on the phone so we can talk about Sylvano a little bit. And so bear with me. This may work. It may not.
Hopefully it works.
We'll see. We're going to give it a shot.
Mr. Wrestling's dialing.
Yes, I am.
And there we go.
Can you all hear this, hopefully? Give me a thumbs up on the messages if you could hear this ringing and if you could hear Bob once we get him on. I am like 8 minutes late on the call.
Your call has been forwarded to.
Well, that's the end of that. What am I going to
Well,
do?
maybe he'll call you back.
That's okay. We're all used to technical difficulties. Anyway, the Pro Wrestling Spotlight podcast that you're going to hear, the new one, we had more laughs on that show today, and it'll drop probably maybe a day late. I'm not sure. All right, so he's calling me back, so let's give this a shot. Bob?
Hello, John.
How you doing?
Okay.
Sorry about the delay in calling you.
That's okay.
I was ranting about unionization in wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's another reason. That's because a guy like Sylvano Sousa, who, I didn't know. I wasn't like best friends with him. I teamed up with him. I've been in the process of trying to get him on the show to talk about that match we had with Dusty. But here's a guy, and hearing stories from you, and I don't know how far deep you want to go with it, but this guy also was somebody who devoted his life to the wrestling business, right? He was an enhancement performer. He had a nice little run in Stampede for Stu Hart. I mean, but he gave his life to wrestling, and he ended with nothing, correct?
Exactly.
Nothing he had. So I mean that's what kind of riled me up too. When you have people who devote their lives to an industry and it doesn't give you anything back, but ailments and injuries. And I mean, no one forces anyone to get into the business, but there's no one helping any of these guys. You got Cauliflower Alley Club for one, who has a very limited budget. I mean, when somebody needs help, there's a limit to what they give them. So, I mean, I really believe that there needs to be a nonprofit industry, a nonprofit for the wrestlers, a nonprofit for people who gave their lives to the business, and who need, when you need help, you can get it, because, you know, it's been a sticking point for me for years, and I'm getting more and more vocal about it. And then when I hear about a guy like Sousa, who really, it didn't end well for him.
No, it didn't.
Tell me a little bit about your history with Sylvano Sousa.
Well, we met at CAC at Cauliflower Alley. That was around 2008. And, you know, I told him that I used to see him on TV. He came there with Tom Burke.
Yeah, Tom is actually listening right now. He came
with Tom, and you know, I knew right away who he was, and we just seemed to gravitate toward one another, ourselves and our friend Diane Devine, and we just became fast friends. And Sousa was a very private individual, and he did not think that the business treated him fairly. And he blamed one person, and that's Pat Patterson, for blackballing him from getting back in the WWE as a road agent or something like that. They had a long history. Sousa at one point had a drug problem years ago, and he also lived on the streets for a year in his car. A lot of people don't know that. I do. And he got into this housing project, which was filled with drug addicts and ex-prostitutes, and he really hated living there. And he was living on $762 a month. I offered to do GoFundMe for him many times. He got very angry and said he would never speak to me again. And I even contacted Cauliflower Alley, and they were willing to help. But he refused to fill out the application because he didn't want people to know that he was poor.
Yeah, he was.
Wouldn't even go to the food bank.
Yeah,
he said, "What if somebody recognizes me?"
You know, a lot of people have pride, and that's probably why you get pride. You're in a high profile industry, so you don't want people to know you're down and out. But I mean, it's just so sad to hear stories like this, and I mean, it's just horrible that he had to end his life like this.
Yes.
And you're somebody that you say you talked to him every night for 12 years, and he was really kind of
almost every night for 12 years.
He was kind of a tortured soul the last several years, and
very much so, very much so.
And
he really loved the business. Even when he would go to some independent shows in the New England area, he wouldn't tell anyone he was coming. He insisted on paying for his ticket, and he would sit in the back. Not with the boys, in the back of the arena or venue, and just watch the matches.
Yeah.
And some of the guys would recognize him and want pictures with him. But, you know, he always would say to me, "You're my only friend." And I said, "Sousa, what about that picture in March that you took with these guys at your student Nick's thing?" And he said, "Yeah, they were my students." And I said, "Do they know your phone number?" "No." "Well, how about I give them your phone number?" No, I don't want them to call me.
Yeah.
I don't want it to get out where I'm living or what I'm doing. It was painful for him.
Yeah. I mean, you know, my own personal experience with him, and that's only been really since I started back up and started this show, and he friended me on Facebook, and then we had a conversation and changed a lot of text. He was going to come on the show to talk about that night with Dusty, and he was really not comfortable with talking about anything. And this was only going to be kind of, let's talk about that night, you know, because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And he was in there, and he was a professional, and I just wanted to get his viewpoints of what we did. And I heard from some people that he just remembered that match, and But it was kind of crazy, and I knew him. I shot photos of him, on the direction of Vince McMahon Jr. back in '76 or '77. He said, "Can you go to this?" I think it was in Worcester, Massachusetts, and they were doing a house show. And he goes, "Can you go there and go, take a lot of pictures of the preliminary boys? Let's give them a little love. If you could take some post shots." And it was Sousa. It was a bunch of the guys that did the jobs on TV. And I didn't know him that well, but once I got this show up and running, and I had the match with me and Dusty, I wanted him to come on just to have fun with it. And he said yes, and then he didn't do it, and he didn't want to talk, and then he said yes, and then over the last week and a half or so, I was trying to reach out to him, see if we could solidify something, but he had an aversion to talking out, so there had to be a lot of stuff going on with him. And he didn't want anybody to know about it, like you're saying. But it's sad. And then I understand. I mean, you would probably know, the story. I mean, he had back surgery not too long ago. He didn't want anybody to know that. He was texting me, "Don't tell anyone I had back surgery." It's like, who am I going to tell? I don't even speak to anybody really anymore. And then, before you know it, I mean, he got sick, 10 days ago?
Yes.
And was he in the hospital for something else, or he just caught COVID and that was it?
The last time that I got a text from him was on Sunday the 8th. He said something about going to Olive Garden and that he would call me around 9. I was in the hospital as well with cellulitis in my legs.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't get to hook up. When I kept calling him and texting him. When I got out on Wednesday, I said, no. There's something wrong that he's not calling me for 3 days. So I called St. Luke's Hospital, which is where I know he goes. And they said he's in the ICU. And I called and got through to the ICU. And they said that they could not give me any information because I was not on the list. And I said, okay, that's fine. So the next day I called back and I said, is there any way I can talk to him? And they said, no, he's unconscious. So I don't know how that happened.
Yeah.
There's some things that I don't know.
Right.
And his old friend in wrestling, Pete Austin, has the medical power of attorney.
Mm-hmm.
And so Pete is the one that knows all the answers. I haven't talked to Pete, but Pete has been in contact with Sylvano's ex-lawyer's wife, Sharon, and I've gotten information through her.
Yeah. But he had no immediate family that you know of?
He does. He has a daughter and 3 granddaughters, and they were estranged.
Okay.
And I know that Pete used to be a private investigator after he left wrestling. And Pete got a hold of one of his granddaughters and left a message. So his son-in-law, who he only talked to once, but sent an email to Joe Bruin wanting to know what Pete's phone number was, that the family wanted to know what was going on. And that's all I know.
Yeah.
I don't know if they got a hold of him or not. I don't know if there's going to be any services. I mean, I'm like 1,500 miles away, so I don't know if there's going to be anything. And I don't know if they would tell me.
Right. You're in Colorado, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Well, I mean,
he loved it out here. He wished he could move here, but
what part of Colorado are you in?
Denver.
Okay. Beautiful
He
city.
was out here a couple of times, and I have to tell you a funny story. When he was out here the last time, the car that I had at the time, the rear passenger door would not open from the inside. I had no idea what was wrong with it. So when he came out, he had to open the door for our friend Diane. And he said, if you know Sousa, he says, yeah, I get it, Diane. You're royalty. I got to open the door for you all the time. And he kept doing it. So when we dropped him off, We told him there was nothing wrong with the door,
Mhm.
which there was. And he goes, oh, ha, ha, nice little rib on Sousa. I'm going to get even with you guys. So for years he said to me, tell Diane I'm going to get her back. Well, he did. He died on her birthday.
Ah.
So there was his last rib.
And you're talking about Diane who?
Diane Devine.
Diane Devine from like the 70s?
Yes.
Oh my God! And she's on the feed right now. I haven't talked to I knew Diane in the 70s.
Yeah,
My goodness.
Diane was 3 miles from me.
Oh my goodness!
Yes.
How you doing, Diane? I mean, we're on the with the WFIA back in the day.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow! Wow!
But
Wow!
we have a lot of Sousa stories.
Yeah, I'm
The
sure.
other favorite one we had was he took a liking to one of our boys, Jack Zaylor, and Jack wound up committing suicide, and Sousa took that very hard. And when we all went to eat, Jack never had a dime to his name.
Yeah.
Sat there just drinking water. And Sousa said, "What are you going to eat, Jack?" He says, "I'm not going to have anything. I don't have any money." Sousa said, "Look, just order something. I'll pay for it." So he looks at what we're all eating, and Sousa's got steak and eggs, the most expensive thing on the menu. He goes, "I'll have that." And Sousa looked at him and said, "Oh, so you're going to have what the king's having, huh?" And we never let him forget it. He was sorry he said it, but it was the funniest thing.
Yeah.
He had a great sense of humor.
Yeah.
He just, all of his friends were dead. All the people that he knew, because he was a kid when he broke in.
Yes, he was.
All of his friends, Fuji, Albano, Altamori, they're all dead. So he felt like he had no one left.
Yeah.
And he was a very lonely person.
Mm.
And he knew he could talk to me about the old days. And he would go on and he would tell stories about this one and that one. And, I mean, some nights we would talk for 5 minutes. He didn't feel good. Other times he'd go on for an hour and a half telling stories. He loved the story about riding with the Samoans on the freeway, and they'd come up at a toll booth, and they would pop the trunk, and little Tokyo was in the trunk. He'd get out and drop a dime in the toll booth, get back in and shut the door, and everybody's mouths would be open.
That's
That
hilarious.
was his favorite one.
Well, that's funny. I mean, imagine seeing that. Like you're in back of a car at a toll booth.
Yeah. Pop the trunk, out comes Tokyo, goes back in.
Yeah. I mean, wrestling has always been full of characters and these types of stories, and that's part of the nature of the business, But the thing is, to have the last stage of your life like this, and that's why I keep harping on this. There's so many like this out there. And, am I making an example out of Sylvano Sousa? There's so many Sylvano Sousas out there.
Yes.
Who die by themselves.
I talked him into that lawsuit. He was part of that class action lawsuit with the lawyer Kairos.
Yeah, with the CTE, the concussions. Right. But he was never like see, that's the other thing. He was never like an employee of the WWE. He was an independent contractor.
Correct.
That did jobs, and you get a call. We're going to have you. You got 15 dates next month, but you're not an employee.
Right. And
so
Kairos told him they would get some money. He promised him. Well, it didn't turn out.
No. Well, the WWE, they won that suit, didn't they?
That he had the opportunity. But all he wanted to buy a halfway decent car because his car was just about done. And he wanted to buy a new suit of clothes because he said, that's the way I want people to remember Sylvano Sousa as a sharp-dressed guy, a sport coat, a sweater. And he says, and I want to buy a steak. That's pretty sad, John.
It's extremely sad. It's not right, and it's sad. It breaks your heart.
He used to tell me, I'm going to have to hire 6 pallbearers for my funeral. That's how he felt.
Mm. Wow. I really appreciate you telling this stuff. I mean, It's just I've had a sick feeling all week when I found out about it, because
Yeah.
I just had, and then I started reading and then getting, your information, and I was able to write a little tribute to him on slamwrestling.net.
Which
And
was very nice. I like that.
well, it came from the heart, and I do hope that he and Dusty are up there in heaven right now, like laughing at how much of an idiot I was getting into the ring with two professionals like that. I want to thank you for your time. And
You're
I mean,
welcome, John.
this is very enlightening for me. I mean, and I'm sorry for your loss. You're dear friends, but I'm sorry Tom Burke is on here, Diane Devine. I'm sorry for your loss. It's heartbreaking. And, wrestling lost somebody that devoted his life to the business.
Yes.
And not all the stories are told, and not, who knows, what he went through and how, the business is an ugly freaking business. Always has
Well,
been. And I don't want to get into it. Yeah, I don't want to get into anything controversial here, but.
And then his wife died when she was 20 years old.
Yeah.
He was 22, and she was 20, and he buried his wife and was left with a 2-year-old girl.
Yeah. Susan.
Not all the stories are great, John.
No. Susan Stulick. Do you know Susan?
Yes.
Because
That's my buddy.
She just commented. He just wanted the simple things in life. That's all Sylvano Sousa wanted.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
He didn't ask for much.
No.
He says, I'm not asking for $1 million. Couldn't Vince just give me $5,000 and I'll drop out of the lawsuit?
Well, the way they look at the performers, they're like, they're pieces of meat. When they're done with you, they spit you out. It's not just Vince, but it's like, so many of the people that are in the business. This is what happens. And then when you go in and you ask for something, $5,000 or whatever it may be, they look at you as kind of like a leech.
Right.
It infuriates me. And that's why, in a way I left. I couldn't stand the business anymore in 1996 when I left. And it wasn't just because of Vince Russo. It was because there was the steroid stuff, the sex scandal stuff. It was all that stuff that just drove me crazy. And the fact that the business had uses people and spit it out. Now here we are. I'm back 27 years later, and I hear stories like this. And I've been thinking so hard over the last several months since I came back. Is like somebody's got to do something for the boys and the ladies that have been in this business. There's got to be a really good nonprofit started. Cauliflower Alley, they do what they can, but it's not big enough to handle what's needed.
Right.
And what's needed is somebody like The Rock, and somebody like Andrew Yang, somebody to come up with millions of dollars in a foundation that can grant people money, whether it's $5,000 or $10,000, or pay somebody's rent for a few months or whatever. That needs to be done.
Because there are other Sylvano Sousas out there.
They're everywhere.
And he would have been thrilled if there was like the motion picture home, if there was like an old wrestler's home.
Yes.
And he could live there and just shoot the breeze with the guys all day. Oh, he would have been in hog heaven.
Yeah. Well, it fires me up, and I've been thinking about this for months now. So who knows? I mean, I am, God has blessed me when I got out of the wrestling business, and I've done okay. I'm not a millionaire or anything like that. Everybody struggles, but
maybe Zelina Vega will start a tradition.
Somebody needs to do something, and I think more people who have made millions of dollars in the wrestling business need to do something. And you need to form an organization or a nonprofit or whatever, a foundation, to help people who gave their lives to pro wrestling and got nothing back, and end up in a hospital with COVID, dying without even a sport coat, right?
Right.
So, anyway, enough of this for now, and that's the way I feel about it. But Bob, I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank everybody that's joined this feed because of this story. People that I like Diane, who I haven't even just talked to or even knew she was around anymore. It was so great.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, and I appreciate your time today, and God bless
thanks for
Sylvana.
having me on, John.
You're quite welcome. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Bob. When he told me he was on the phone with Sylvana almost every day for 12 years, it's disturbing to me for this. It's just disturbing, and like I said. Dominic, I've been on my high horse about this stuff for for a long time.
Yeah,
and it hurts me. It really does, because the business is just
it's the people who you work with, people who you knew, and then
Yeah.
you're seeing how the business has treated them. It's sad.
Yeah, and there's another guy right now who we're praying for, Billy Anderson. Billy Anderson, who was a referee, who was an enhancement guy who worked his life in wrestling, developed COVID a few days ago, and so I'm praying for him being well. He was on my tours of Venezuela, all the lucha stuff I did out in Los Angeles. Billy was always involved, and a good friend, and Godspeed and prayers to him as well. Dominic, I'm going to take you out of the feed now because we're going to do something that's fun.
Okay. I think it's time we lighten up the mood.
Yeah, let's lighten up the mood. And, I'm sorry to be on my high horse. I'm not even on the high horse. I'm just ranting today, and I apologize. I'm fired up. And but let's go back in time, everybody. I was a promoter at one time, 1993. I found a great match. It's a really good match. You can enjoy it. It's not long. I'm not going to keep you here for a long time. But it's Jake the Snake Roberts against Diamond Dallas Page in Southeast Asia in 1993 with an incredible Paulie Dangerously in Diamond Dallas Page's corner. And I take a pretty interesting bump. I take a bump in this one. DDP gives me a little push. Anyway, I'm going to share the screen. You know the drill by now, regular watchers of this show. I'm going to go to the Chrome. I'm going to share the audio, and we're going to take a look at this. So enjoy it, and then we'll come back and wrap the show up on the other side of this great video. So let's do this right now.
This next contest, special grudge match, referee Henry Terranova.
Once the match starts, I'm gonna have the full screen, but my embarrassment to see DDP push me down. And there he is. The armed security guards in Manila. My recollection, how many times did DDP work against Jake? Does anybody know?
Atlantic City, New Jersey, he is known as Diamond Dallas. Hey!
It's not bad of a name. There you go. 350,000 bump.
Had the guts to show up tonight. Well, the first thing I got to say is, I don't want to hear anybody say a word, or I'm going to come out there and beat every one of you one by one. Bring out Jake the Snake. Look at his face right there. Bring that fella out. Wait a minute. Get over here. Move that steak back. Move the steak back. Hey, Robert, move that steak back. Move it back. Move the damn steak back. Take the move it back, Rob. Corner out there. Who is he? Hey, back, come here. Get in the middle over here. Get over here, Rob. Get over here. 1, 2, 3. No DDT! No DDT! And the winner, Jake the Snake Roberts!
Jake the Snake Roberts, DDP, short and sweet. Because if they went any longer, they probably would have held me up for more money back in the day. So anyway, that was our match of the week. I had a few other things I wanted to play, but we have about 6 minutes left until we got to wrap it up. And that's that. You know, I'm thinking about doing a few things as we head into the new year with this show. I'm talking to a couple of different people, a couple of platforms, because I want to do bigger and better things here with this show. I want to grow the audience, obviously, and I want to provide a service and hopefully grow this thing. But as my wrestling radio show evolved years and years ago, I mean, sometimes I was a voice that people didn't want to hear. I was never afraid to call people out, and I'm not going to do that at this late stage of my life. A couple of plugs, as I always do. I mean, the Pro Wrestling Spotlight Then and Now podcast. We're having just a great time with that show. So pwspod.com. And if you're not a patron yet, why don't you subscribe at $5 a month? You get the whole complete catalog without commercials, each episode in their entirety. Patreon.com/Arezzi. We have our auction site up on Facebook. It's John Arezzi's Vintage Wrestling Auctions. And just take a look at this cachet from this. If you guys were fans of the NWA in Mid-South from back in the day, a guy named Terry Kent, pastor in Virginia, was very close friends with a guy named Greg Bowles, who passed away. and he was a photographer and also an indie manager. And we have up for auction right now some amazing pictures from back then. I mean, autographed Ric Flair, Ricky Steamboats. Look at this, Ray Stevens and Greg the Hammer Valentine. Even some, and Greg took all of these pictures. Freddie Blassie with Blackjack Mulligan, and Roddy Piper with Koloff's Piper signed on the front, Koloff on the back. So all of that right now is available on Facebook. And I also got some amazing authenticated Bruno Sammartino vintage magazine covers with Bruno's signature on it. And just take a look at some of this stuff. I mean, Flair and Valentine, Judy Martin, Ox Baker, Manny Fernandez and Magnum TA, all signed. Look at this one. Bob Backlund and Arnold Skolin. Check that bad boy out. There's the guy that kicked my ass in 1978, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. Even the All-American himself, Hulk Hogan, signed pictures at facebook.com/John Arezzi's Vintage Wrestling Auctions. You can own a piece of history, and they're not, we're putting them up at $15, $20 for opening bids. So if you want a piece of history, go there now or over the weekend. The auction continues until 11 p.m. tomorrow night, which is Sunday. And Dominic, first show back. Your uncle is what do you usually call when I have these little, what do you call them? Explosions. I had a bit of an explosion today in front of everyone, and I apologize. My blood pressure is got a little high today, but I just don't like injustice, and I don't like hearing about someone who dies with nothing, who can't even get a sport coat, who lived on the streets, and I was too proud to ask for help. So I think things need to change, and for everybody that has loved and enjoyed professional wrestling, more needs to be done to the alumni of the sport we all love. I'll be back next week with another Pro Wrestling Spotlight Live. I don't know, I don't know who's going to join us. Hopefully I'll be back. We'll have some other guests. Thank you, Richard. Appreciate it. You're in a different time zone, of course, over in England, and you stay up late to watch this broadcast. But we'll be back next week and talk more wrestling with you. Dominic?
Take care, everyone.
Take care, everyone. Until next week, this is John Arezzi with producer Dominic. We'll see you next week. Thank you, everybody.